features from Emerald was gone. Features such as the battle frontier. Where is it?
Where is it? Where the hell is it? Where the hell is it?
Look at me, stay with me.
7, 8, 9, 10.